Dance Your Heart on Fire podcast, episode number 109.
Welcome to the Dance Your Heart on Fire podcast, the podcast dedicated to inspiring dancers worldwide whose hearts have been touched by music and dance. The universal language of dance and music is spoken by many of us throughout the world. We want to motivate the dancer in you by sharing stories, insights, and ideas to enhance your journey. Join us now with your host, Charles Ogar.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast. It has been a hot minute since I have gotten a chance to speak with you guys with the podcast. A lot has happened. The pandemic has happened and things are starting to come back. I've also gone through some personal things with the festival and had some family things going on and some personal things going on, and things are starting to settle a little bit. So I'm definitely trying to get back on the wagon to create some content and share some intellectual dance content with you all. So I do apologize for silence, but we are trying to make it back again and at least have a podcast out at least once a month or a few times a month versus every week, but we're going to keep it moving. This particular podcast is with my brother Jurcic. He's out of Montreal. This was recorded before the festival. The plan was originally to release this podcast before the festival, so you guys had a chance to kind of hear his story and get to know a little bit more about him before the festival happened, but we were not able to get it out beforehand, but I still wanted to share it out there. And Jurcic will be with us for the Neo Kids Festival Part 7 in 2023 next year, July 20th to the 24th. So yes, I hope you guys appreciate the podcast and Jurcic's story. And yes, let's go ahead and jump into the podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dance Your Heart on Fire podcast. Thanks for joining us today. And today we have mon frère on the line from Montreal, Quebec, Mr. Jurcic. How you doing today, brother?
Ça va bien. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I cannot complain. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to come and talk with us. And I guess there should be some extra thanks because, like you told me before the podcast, it's tax season. So you're putting in some extra hours. So I appreciate you taking some time to be on the podcast with us.
My pleasure. It was overdue.
Definitely. Man, it's been a while with the pandemic because I know that we talked before I left to South America. Yeah. And then I was in South America and the Wi-Fi situation wasn't the best in South America and I didn't have my microphone. Yeah. And then I got back and persistence. We were able to make it happen.
Exactly.
So thanks for joining us here on the podcast. I guess to share a little bit of the idea of even bringing you on the podcast is because you are coming to join us to teach and DJ at the Neo Kizomba Festival that's happening this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, the dance world is starting to come back a little bit, starting to show a little bit of life after almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And is this your first booking in the US?
Yes, actually, it's my first one.
Sweet. So I don't remember the first time that I met you, but it was definitely, I've been to Montreal several times, so it had to be one of those times there. So I know some people haven't heard of you, or maybe they've seen some of your demos, or maybe a little bit here and there, but I definitely wanted to get you on the show to share a little bit about your dance journey and how you've been like starting in kids and things of that nature, because you're definitely one of the talented leads that I've seen. And then like even you've been starting DJing through the pandemic, and we can talk about that as well, of how you even decided to start. But yeah, I wanted to give opportunity to come on the show, talk about your perspectives, your thoughts and things, and then just say so people can get to know you a little bit better, you know?
Yeah, I can do that. So, little story about me. Do you want me to start from what dance I start first, or for anything?
Let's choose a particular period, because for all of the for all of the friends that I've been having with the pandemic, it's been a little bit weird because usually I say, what does your dance life look like today? But today is a weird time. So let's reminisce a little bit and say, what did your dance life look like in 2019 before the pandemic? What did your dance life look like before then?
Before that, I had my school, and we were teaching every week.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say every weekend I was at a festival for teaching or just to dance.
Mm-hmm.
So with that and with the tax season and everything, I almost didn't get any time to rest. So let's say that the pandemic helped me to rest a little bit, but everything is getting back to normal now, and it start again.
Okay, and just to give the listeners a little bit of context, you are teaching in Montreal, Quebec, yes?
I'm teaching in Quebec City.
Quebec City, yes. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that clarification. Exactly. So Quebec City, I believe, is like an hour and a half, 2 hours from Montreal?
Yeah, 2 hours.
2 hours driving from Montreal.
You can do it in one and a half if you want.
So I think some of you guys are also hearing the French accent. Quebec is a French-speaking province, if you didn't know, in Canada. So there's a lot of French speakers in Montreal. And if you've been listening to the podcast for any length, you know that Montreal and Quebec is one of my favorite places to go for kizomba because they have so many opportunities to dance kizomba and urban kids there as well. So I just wanted to give the listeners a little context.
Yeah, before the pandemic, it was every day you have a party every day. Like if you want to dance on Monday after work, you will find somewhere to dance.
And I remember 649 with DJ Sync was nice to go on Tuesdays and things like that, you know?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's how your dance life was before. Was your first partner dance that you learned, was it kizomba or did you dance something else before?
Actually, it's funny because yes, we can say that this is the first partner dance that I learned, but I just took the débutant. Is it an English word?
Like the beginner class, yeah?
Exactly, the beginner class. And in a local studio here in Quebec City. And then after I went to Europe, I was in vacation, so I danced a little bit. But when I came back, I don't know what's happened. I'm not able to remember it. However, I stopped dancing kizomba and started dancing bachata. So
interesting.
Yeah. So I danced bachata for like one year. And then after that, I started dancing salsa. And the first style that we learn is salsa on one, you know. But for a reason, I think that it didn't suit me to dance on one. So when I learned salsa on two, I think that my life changed. I was more connected to the music, you know, and if you know me, you know that I'm a big fan of musicality and everything.
Definitely.
So I was really connected to the music. Then, let's say, I danced salsa for 4 years, doing competition and choreo, everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So some commitment.
Yeah. So I did that for 4 years, and I came back to kizomba with a new knowledge of musicality and partner dancing, everything. And it changed how I see now the dance. Yeah.
That's interesting that you were exposed to kizomba beforehand, but then went and did more Latin things and then came back to kizomba. I think that's the first time that I've heard that because my first partner dance was also salsa. Okay. And I can definitely relate to what you were saying about dancing salsa on two because it just feels different than dancing on one.
Yeah.
But then I found kizomba, and then from there I slowly started to shift over. And nowadays I dance salsa like maybe a handful of times in a year, but I feel like it's a different cardio when I dance salsa now, you know. And then it's also interesting, and it'd be interesting to hear your perspective on this. I feel like a lot of the popular salsa songs have not changed for so many years.
They're classics, you know.
It's like the same classics that you dance to. So it's awesome because you know the music. But at the same time, when you compare it to kizomba, like there's so much new music that's coming out all the time. sometimes it's even rare to hear some of the older songs that you like from maybe even 3-4 years ago, you know?
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to do sometimes when I mix. I like to do a lot of throwback, you know. I like to play the current song, but I like to mix the throwback too, because every day new people to the scene, and they don't really know where we come from, you know. So I like to give them a taste of where we come from to enjoy the same vibe as us, you know.
Definitely. And it's interesting you use the word throwback, and it's an interesting word because throwback means different things to different people. You know, for us, like around our generation, throwback will be like maybe the 90s. If we're talking about like R&B and hip hop or something like that. But in kizomba, maybe it's going back 3, 4, 5 years. You know, but if you talk to somebody born in the 70s, throwback for them is going to be way before. You know, so it's very interesting with the human experience to see what inspires nostalgia.
Yeah.
And that the happiness that you get from nostalgia. And it's kind of like a common human feeling that we all feel because we all are exposed to different things as we grow up. Yeah. But it's something that all humans can relate to, but different things have a trigger for that nostalgia, you know?
Exactly.
Very fascinating. So before we get into your kizomba journey, I am curious to hear your decision. When you said before when you were dancing like bachata and salsa that you were part of a performance team and you did competitions and things of that nature. What do you feel in your personality made you feel like to want to commit to do choreographies and competitions and things of that nature? Because that's something that I didn't do in my salsa journey. And I feel like I saw some of the salsa dancers dancing, but you know, it's a lot of hours in the studio. It's more money. Yeah. You got to buy the wardrobe. So what was going on in your life where you felt like you wanted to kind of take those extra steps to push yourself?
But since I was like a teenager, actually, I always went to school. I always studied. So I didn't really do something for myself till like I finished my first baccalaureate, you know. So after that, I started working, and I had to wait two years to have my residency in Canada. So I decided to do something. And in the studio I was speaking about, the name is Salsa Attitude, actually. And they had beginner class to show people what is kizomba. And before that, I've just seen the video of Albi and Sarah. You know what I'm speaking about, right?
Yes. The one that went viral.
So I was like, okay, I want to do that, you know. Then I'll
link that video in the description in case you don't know which video that we're talking about. But so many kizomba teachers know that video from that time, you know?
Exactly. So I went there, and actually the beginner class was on my birthday. So I went there, did it. I like it. I take the class. It was 7-week class. I take it. But after that, as I was saying, I went to Europe.
Where did you go in Europe?
I went to France.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to dance there. Then I went back to my country, Benin. I danced a little bit. But when I came back, as I say, I didn't have the opportunity to dance a lot of kizomba, so I switched to bachata. Yeah.
Did you do any dancing in Benin?
No. As you can see, and since you know me, you know that I'm an introvert person. So I didn't do a lot of stuff when I was in Benin. But I did a little bit of dancehall when I came here, let's say from 2012 to 14. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so let's talk about how you kind of got hooked to kizomba, because you mentioned you tried it before, but then because of lack of opportunity, you went into other dances and things of that nature, but then you came back to it. How did that happen? Was it a social? Was it a class? What kind of like sparked your curiosity to start back up kizomba again?
No, it was a challenge actually for me, because I had someone who had doubts that I can do it, that I can be good at it. So I am like, when someone challenged me, I needed to prove to myself that I can do that, you know. and I started taking class. I started taking private, speaking with teacher.
Mm-hmm. And this was in Montreal?
Yeah, in Quebec City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who was the person that was teaching then?
Oh, you speaking where it happened or where I took classes?
Yes, it happened in Quebec City, you said,
yeah.
And who was the teacher that you're learning from at that time?
What's his name? His name was Arsene. It's a salsa teacher.
Okay.
But he tried kizomba too,
I gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is a very common thing for the salseros to start teaching kizomba.
Exactly. So after that, I started learning. The first time I went to a festival, it was Montreal in kizomba. There was Laurent and Adeline there. So
nice.
Yeah. So I think that for me, the best ever is Laurent, Yeah.
A lot of people would agree for sure.
What I like about him and what I like also about you is the pedagogy, how you break stuff to make people understand, even if it's complicated, they can relate to what you're saying, Yeah, exactly. So that's what I like the most about it. And I took some private from GP and Steffi, OD too. And the rest was all by myself, learning pedagogy, learning new tricks, trying to apply my salsa and other dance knowledge to my dance, learning music too, learning musicality, everything.
Yeah, so for me, I remember like coming from salsa and watching kizomba, like it really threw my brain in a weird place because I was so used to following the 8 count,
Exactly.
Or if you're dancing on 2, you have to hit the 2 and the 6, and if you're off beat, then you have to like kind of find a way to get back on the beat.
Yeah.
But this doesn't exist in kizomba or in urban kids or anything like that. So it was really a tough thing for me originally to kind of break free from the count and then have the confidence to really express the musicality that I heard in that time,
Yeah. I can relate to that. And actually, in my head, when I started, it was only 1, 2, 3. You know the count 5, 6, 7.
Exactly.
So I did that for a while. I think that's one thing who slow my progression. But when I discovered that I can actually draw my dance, like I'm not supposed to stay in the 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 count. I can draw my dance. I can do 1 and do 7.
Exactly.
So I think that the thing who changed how I see kizomba.
Exactly. That makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about the pedagogy as you were learning it, because I'm pretty sure this is going to tie into how you teach. So you mentioned pedagogy from myself and from Laurent. I feel like for kizomba, we're kind of going to go off on a little bit of a tangent. I feel like pedagogy is super, super important for our dance because there's so much possibility for the steps. Once you learn one step, there's like so many possibilities of slowing it down or speeding it up, going to the side, and there's a lot of building blocks,
Yeah.
And now we're kind of thinking about, as we started, the things that we struggled with. And now that we are teachers, now we kind of like see our students make those same mistakes that we made when we first started,
Yeah.
So let's just keep it like at what are some things or what are some tips that you have for some leaders to kind of help them get on their way to musicality for somebody who's kind of like a newer dancer to kizomba and urban kids?
For someone who is newer in kizomba urban kids, to learn musicality, I will just tell him to learn his basic step actually, because even if he know how to dance, how to listen to the music, if he's not able to do his basic step, he won't have any fun, to be honest. So I really prefer someone who starts to focus on his basic step before learning anything which is musicality. Yeah, like learn to have fun on a basic tool,
Makes sense.
Yeah, learn to have fun on the basic tool, learn to have fun on a basic tree. Your Saida do it correctly, and then you can try something harder. But if you're not able to have fun by doing only your basics, obviously if you get better, it's boring. But if you're not able like to have fun with your basics, like what's the point of dancing actually?
Yeah, definitely. And so there has to be some level of confidence. And I guess there's also something to be said because the journey to get better is like a long journey. It takes a couple of years to get really, really good.
Yeah.
So you have to be, one idea that I've had in my brain recently is to do your best for that day. You know, it's going to take a while. Your Saida is going to need work. It's going to take some time to get it, but have fun and really do your best. And only you really know inside if you're giving your best. And that's really the best thing that you can do for that particular day, you know?
Yeah.
And the next step is just to come back to class and to keep dancing and to try it again. But each time that you go out there, you're trying to do your best for that particular day. And you can have fun along the way, even as you're getting better, you know?
Exactly.
All right. So you started dancing kizomba. You came back in Quebec City. You mentioned there's an instructor's name, Arson.
Yeah.
And okay, what happened after that? You started taking classes. You started getting a little bit better. And were you still dancing salsa bachata at that time?
Oh, when I came back to kizomba? Yeah, I was still dancing salsa and bachata. However, when I took the decision to start teaching, I was less dancing that because I didn't have a lot of time to do everything, you know. So yeah, when I start focusing more on kizomba, it was hour of practice.
Okay, and how much time was there between you coming back to kizomba and when you decided to start teaching?
I think I came back to kizomba around 2018, 17, 18. And we opened the school, I think 2001, 1 year, 1 year after that. Yeah, but we put the work in our training.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I started teaching kizomba like 4 months after I learned it because a studio reached out to me and like, hey, do you want to teach kizomba here? And I'm like, I never taught class before. I'm not sure. And they're like, don't worry, we'll teach you and we'll help you along the way. And so that was kind of how I first started. So even in my journey now, like I started teaching back in 2013, 2014, some people, like when they tell me oh, I'm afraid to say that I started teaching class. And I'm like, there's no bodyguard. There's no protector. There's no fine. There's no mafia that's going to come and like slash your tires or anything like that because you started teaching class. Like, if you're interested in trying to teach, try it and see if you like it or not, you know? And if you do really, really like it and you have a passion for it, you're not going to get any better at teaching by not teaching. You have to get yourself out there and start making mistakes teaching so you can get that experience and become a better teacher, you know?
Yeah.
But having the fear to never start is you're just going to be in the same spot all the time, you know?
Definitely.
So tell us about your mindset when you first decided to start teaching. Did you teach salsa or bachata, or was this the first thing that you were teaching at all?
I teach salsa a little bit, but it was occasionally.
Occasionally, I get you.
Oh, what that mean?
Occasionally means like every now and then.
Okay, good. So it was the right word.
It's good. It was a good word selection.
Yeah, so I did it. I was more focusing on what's the name? Jeu de pied. How to say it? It was not partner work. It was more when you do
footwork, like shines.
Yeah, on shine. It was more on shine, and yeah, I did it a little bit. Then we start teaching kizomba. That's all.
Okay. How would you say your experience went with your first couple of classes that you taught together? Because, you know, the image that I have in my brain right now is the image of the iceberg. You know, sometimes they show like the tip of the iceberg is just like, okay, teach wiki classes. But then when you look under the iceberg, there's marketing, there's promotion, there's booking the studio, there's lesson planning and all these things.
When I say to you that before COVID, I didn't know how much I was exhausted. Like when COVID started and we were in containment, bro, like I didn't remember my life before. I was like, what's happened? I didn't even have the time to rest because I finished working. I had other projects and I work on them. Then I have to prepare the classes. And since I'm a little bit perfectionist, the class must be perfect, Then we have to do the promo. I have to do the administration, book the studio, speak with the student who want more after the class or before the class, everything. So yeah, it was exhausting.
Yeah. So with all of these things that you had to do, were you prepared to do all those things when you first started to teaching, or was it just like,
no,
were you?
It just happened to me. Like, I was living my life and it hit me.
Yeah, I think some people don't realize all the steps that are required to teach. And when it's just two people, it's not a lot, and you dedicate a lot of time. So that's even why I don't teach really the local classes here in Austin, because to keep a class going week by week by week, with all the students and the advertising and the promotion and the student registration and all these things, it gets a little crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why right now I'm not teaching like weekly classes. I'm just doing like punctual, occasional. Oh, I need to find a good word. When it's like, let's say I do something one time a month. What is the good
monthly
word?
You can say monthly, or I guess it's not really spontaneously.
No.
But basically they're saying you're just doing things here and there.
Yeah, because now accounting take a lot of my time. I have other projects who take a lot of my time too. So I'm not able to dedicate myself to weekly classes and do something which is good. So I prefer occasionally stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mostly just teach like maybe a workshop here and there in Austin, and I travel to do my weekenders and private lessons here in Austin, Texas, just to kind of have a little bit of balance, But
exact.
Weekly classes are definitely a huge commitment. And yeah, it definitely takes a lot of time. And even if you're passionate about it, it's just like, how do you juggle it all with your full-time job and everything like that,
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to keep it going like that.
Nice. Do you have any advice for anybody listening who is thinking about teaching? What kind of advice would you share with them?
To speak first with people who teach and to see what kind of struggle they have. And before just throwing himself in the jungle and started doing shit.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Like learn from people's experiences, then you start doing your own error. But at least you know that you can go to people who have more experiences than you for them to help you when it's hard.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay, so you started teaching in Quebec City. Was this when you were teaching with Isabel?
Yeah.
It was Emoti Kids. Is that right?
Yeah.
Nice. So that went on for how long? And when did you teach up until the pandemic, or?
Yeah, we teach like almost till the pandemic, like 2 months before the pandemic.
I got you. So go ahead. You going to say something?
Yeah, I was saying then the pandemic hit and it was over.
Definitely. So I also noticed before, when did you do the photo shoot? I remember there was a photo shoot the one for the photo that I'm using. When did that photo shoot happen?
The one you're using? It was during the pandemic, actually.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And then there was one before, like there's one with you like wearing like a blue and purple shirt, and it's kind of like the same shirt that you were wearing because there was a video of you dancing by yourself that you did to kind of like show your style.
Oh wait, the photo that where I'm in white, you asking for that?
No, the photo where you're in blue, like blue and like pink or something like that.
Oh, blue and I think the one on the flyer for Gnocchis.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that one was during the pandemic, actually.
Oh, it was through the pandemic as well. So
Yeah.
is during the pandemic when you put out the video of you dancing by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a friend who's a photographer, and she decided that she wants to take a photo of me. Okay.
Mhm.
So we went out, and she was taking the photo. We put some music, and I had one glass of gin tonic in my blood.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, I really like this song. I want to dance. And she filmed it, and that's it.
Nice. I remember that. I didn't remember when it happened, if it happened before the pandemic or during the pandemic, but I remember there was like you coming out to kind of like do your own thing. So I will share a link of that in the description in case you want to see it, because I remember, okay, Jurcic is now kind of like putting himself out to start do some solo videos, you know? So the pandemic hit, and before you mentioned that like you didn't realize how exhausted you were, and I can also relate with that as well because I didn't have to organize Neo Kids, so it was just like, oh wow, this is what it feels like to have time and have peace and things of that nature, you know. So now that the dance is coming back, I guess how was the pandemic for you, like emotionally and dance wise, and I guess how do you feel now that things are starting to like open back up again?
When the pandemic started, I was not in a good place, you know. But I'm lucky that I had friends at that moment who support me. And let's say I was not in the good place, but it didn't take long to come back in the good place, actually, because I was able to feel their love and their support. Mm-hmm. And I missed dance, but I didn't miss dance so much because I was able to take care of myself. It has been 6 years since I really took care of myself, you know. Mm-hmm. So
when you say take care of yourself, what do you mean?
Focus on my health, on my mental health also, because I was just living in life, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just passing by, didn't took the time to sit down and say, okay, is what you're doing, is what you want to do, everything. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the pandemic helped me pause and think about all that. Then I start missing dance because now I was better in my head. So now I start missing dance. And I was not able to dance. So I call Sync and I say, Sync, you know me that I love music. It's been a while since I want to make people discover how I listen to music, how I enjoy it. So when are we doing the first private? And then we do the first private and I start missing a little.
So this was a private to learn how to DJ. Did you have any experience about DJing before you took this private with Sync, or did you start from like square one?
Zero experiences. I called him. We went to buy a small controller. Mm-hmm. He was with me. Then
which controller did you get?
It was a Numark. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, a small Numark. I don't remember. Multi-track, I think.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha.
Yeah.
And did Sync recommend Rekordbox or Serato?
It was the less expensive for my budget at that moment because I didn't want to put a lot of money inside. So it was on Serato. So by default, I start with Serato.
I gotcha. Are you still with Serato now, or?
Yeah, I'm still with Serato.
Okay. I started with Serato as well, and then I think after a few years, I switched over to Rekordbox because I know Rekordbox has some ways to kind of classify the music, but usually for people who are starting to DJ, you don't need to make it too complicated. It's important for you to learn how to beat match and all that kind of stuff first, and then you can figure out how you want to kind of like manage your music libraries and all that kind of stuff, you know?
This is so exhausting. I manage my library almost two times a week. Like I'm I don't like it here. No, it will be better here. Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like different songs have different tags, you know, like, hey, this song has a violin, it's ghetto zouk, and it's a female singer, and it was made in 2014. So depending on the mood that you're in, you can choose that song for multiple reasons, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, share with us a little bit your mindset as you were learning how to DJ, and did it inspire you? Was it frustrating? Did you almost give up?
I didn't give up because it was really something that I wanted to do. So I really didn't have any reason to give up. I could have given up because when I started beat matching, it was a little bit hard. But the chance that I had was I didn't start from the scratch, actually. I started with someone who had experiences. So he gave me shortcut. But when I say shortcuts, not shortcuts on the technique, but is like, don't do that because it will take you too long to learn. Like do this instead.
So you had more of like a roadmap.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
It was not, I don't want to say it was easier, but it was easier for me to start, actually.
I think it'll also be a little bit easier for you as well, being a dancer who's already heard a lot of DJs and things of this nature. So you have an idea of like the ambiance that you want to create. Maybe you don't know exactly how to do it, but you have an idea of like what sounds good to you, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. But actually I work a lot, like almost every day I was mixing, I work a lot. And I work a lot on my craft. So that's one thing who helped me become good. I think that I'm a decent and good DJ. I'm not where I want to be right now yet, but I think I'm a really good DJ.
And I think when you're learning things, like the more you learn, the more you realize that things you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with dance. It's like, I don't think any dancer can be like, oh, I'm the dancer that I want to be, because if you're really learning and you're really training, you're going to realize there's so many things that you don't know. And of course, you don't have to know everything to be like a really good dancer. But at least for me, that's what really inspires like some humility. Yeah. Just realizing how big the world of dance is.
Exactly.
And your brain can only process so much information at one time,
Exactly. It's like, take time. It will take time. You have to work, but take the time also to see where you went, where you come from, and where you are.
Nice. Yeah, I remember during the pandemic seeing some of the things that you were sharing on SoundCloud to kind of let people know that you were starting to mix and things of that nature.
But actually, I did it for myself because to challenge myself, So the first one that I put out, I think it was in September. I was in Benin. I started mixing in July. And I went back to Benin, and it was in September or October. And I put out the first one because I want that each time I put something out, the next one is better than the one I did before. So it was to challenge myself,
Nice. So you're coming out of the pandemic. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I saw that you were DJing at a party in Montreal with Sync.
Yeah.
How did that go? Was that your first time DJing live?
No. When I was in Benin, as I was saying, early in October, I was DJing. When
you're DJing for people?
Yeah, for people.
Okay, so there's kizomba in Benin.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk a little bit about that. I didn't know.
There was a festival in February, actually. And what's the name? Fred Nelson and his partner, they were there. So actually, Morgan, exactly, Morgan. We dance kizomba in Benin, actually.
I did not know. I know it's not, if you go to Paris, like you have festivals that are happening all the time. But when you're in Africa, I think maybe I'm not as connected to know what's going on in the scene there. But I know in Nigeria, there's a guy that's like teaching there. I don't know if there's any festivals yet.
No, there's no festival in Nigeria. There was one in Ivory Coast. And Benin, actually. That's the two that I can remember.
Nice. Do you know when that scene started? Like, I know it takes a while to be able to have some classes there and then have enough people to feel confident to run a festival.
When I started dancing, I went, as I say, I went in vacation in Europe. Then I went to Benin, and people were already dancing kizomba there. So yeah, it starts a while back.
Interesting. That's good to know. Maybe if there's like a Facebook group or something of that nature, we can put it in the show notes so people can check that out if they want.
Yeah, I will send it to you.
Sweet. Okay, so you came back to Montreal and so you DJ'd some more. I know that was like one of the first parties that happened in a long time in Montreal because I know Canada is kind of strict with the COVID regulations.
It was the first.
Yeah.
Official.
How was that experience?
I enjoyed it. I was not stressed. I was a little bit nervous because it was the first, but I was not stressed because I know how much work I put behind it. So yeah, I was like, whatever happened, I can handle it.
Makes sense. That's awesome.
Yeah, preparation.
So as we get closer to the end of the podcast here, so you're coming out of the pandemic with like better mental health. You're starting to dance again. I've seen some videos of you with some other follows now. You learn how to DJ. How do you feel your vision is feeling moving back into dance and kind of finding that good balance, you know? How's your perspective now?
Before the pandemic, I wanted to do everything and I wanted to do everything and to expose myself and to show myself to the world, you know, before the pandemic. And right now, I want to do things that I like at my own pace, you know. You see? So if I feel that I want to teach here, I will. If I don't feel it, I won't do it. If I want to DJ, I will do it. If I don't feel it, I won't. And I don't have the need to prove anything anymore. This is not because I'm the best, but because I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm comfortable with how I'm learning, how I'm teaching. I'm comfortable with what I can produce in my quality. So I don't feel that need anymore. Like I'm just enjoying the process right now.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's important to be happy with what you're doing, and you have to make sure that the things that you're doing really resonate with what you want to do and not what you feel like you should be doing, you know?
Exactly. That's exactly what it was in my mind.
Nice. So I guess let's talk a little bit before we end the podcast, a little bit about, I guess, your dancing. And you said that you're not teaching right now, but are you living in Quebec City or in Montreal?
I'm living everywhere, but most of the time I'm in Quebec City.
I wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit about musicality and when it comes to training and what has been kind of your practice coming out of the pandemic. Have you felt that your style has changed, or do you feel like you've maintained it? How's been kind of like your passion for that?
I think that my style changed a lot. Before the pandemic, I was, how to describe it? I really don't. Actually, what do you think my style is?
I feel like that's a hard question to ask because it's kind of like a moving target. Or it's a hard question to answer because it's a moving target, and I feel like I would have to have more exposure to your style to see you dance to different types of music and maybe with different follows as well, because different follows inspire different things out of you.
Exactly.
Different songs inspire different things out of you, and yeah, it also depends on like what you prioritize, you know. There could be things that a dancer doesn't do because they don't prioritize or they don't like those things, but it doesn't mean they're not able to do them, you know?
Yeah, I don't do a lot
and
of
there's some And there's also a lot of things that we don't do because we can't do them because we're not at that level yet. And I feel like only the dancer knows really what they can do and what they can't do and what they choose not to do and things of that nature. So it is hard to answer about somebody's style if you haven't seen a ton of videos.
Okay. I got you.
So I know from my limited perspective, if I were to attempt to answer your style or your answer your question about your style, I will definitely see there's a priority for musicality and smoothness in the footwork. I would say, I think maybe a commonality that we have is that we're comfortable with turns in our urban kids because we have the salsa background, because I feel like that's also really rare to see like spins and things like that in urban kids. But for me, it feels, I don't know, it feels like nothing. It feels very natural for me to spin my follow. And I feel like maybe another commonality between you and I is that, you know, some people are more like the douceur people. They just want to like hug and like stay and like be in each other's energy. And I feel like maybe from my limited perspective, it feels like our dance styles, we like want to do more advanced footwork and syncopations and playing of different positions and things like that, you know?
Yeah, exactly, actually. But I don't do it at 2 a.m.
So when you're tired, and again, it depends what's the music, you know, at 2 a.m. If it's like slower, then it depends. Or if the floor is really packed, or if you're like, now, okay, I've put out my energy, I feel good about the night, now I want to just relax, is also a time for that as well, you know?
Yeah, but to answer your question, I think my style visually changed, but my foundation doesn't change. I'm still focusing my dancing on musicality and on precision. No, like that's something who's really important for me to lead correctly and be able to give the follow the information and be able to give her the right information without putting her uncomfortable. No,
exactly.
So this foundation doesn't change. I really like my lines. Like, please respect them. Like,
definitely.
Yeah, that's actually why my DJ name is JC Stripes, because I really like stripes, and it was perfect with my obsession with lines also.
Definitely. I feel like it just opens up so many possibilities to have those clean lines, you know? Of course, sometimes you can do spins and angles and shit, but essentially a circle is many lines that have been kind of like put on top of one another, you know?
Exactly. And one thing I like to say to my student is, like, if it doesn't respect your line, you're killing your creativity. Yeah, because you're playing too much with your balance. It's not nice.
And I feel like just like if we take a look at the way that we are anatomically designed, we walk in a straight line, you know? We don't walk in all kind of crazy lines, you know?
Could you imagine?
Definitely. Okay, brother. I know when we're preparing for the podcast, there was a quote that you chose to kind of like inspire or share some advice with our dancers. Can you share that quote for us and the reason why you chose it?
This is something which is really important for me. The quote is, do you want me to say it with my sexy voice, or
maybe for the ladies that are listening on the podcast, I'll let you do your thing.
No, it's just what seems hard now will one day be your warm up. It's everything is my life is showing it to me. When I started DJing, it was hard. I work a lot, and now it's less hard. And I know that in 1 year it will be less hard again. When I start dancing, and this person had doubts on me, it was hard, but now it's less hard. So every time you're starting something and you think that it's too difficult to continue, if you really want to do it, like time will help you. Just work and time will help you.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. It's like, do your best. It's okay to push your comfort zone and don't beat yourself up. Like, the best thing you do is to do your best, even if it's not what you want at the level you want or something of the nature. Do your best and then repeat. Show up, do your best, and repeat, and like keep practicing. You know, that's really the best thing.
Show up. It's really important, because you still can want to do your best, but if it doesn't show up,
exactly.
Show up. Yeah.
And if you do show up and you don't do your best, and you're just kind of like not challenging yourself, then you're also just kind of like wasting your time. You know?
Yeah.
Nice, brother.
Thank you.
All right. So if people wanted to if people wanted to follow you on social media, what platforms, what should they search for to follow you online?
Mostly I will say on Instagram. And on SoundCloud, because I really don't use a lot Facebook. So it's more Instagram if you want to speak with me, and on SoundCloud if you want to hear my music. Okay.
And what's your username on Instagram?
Jurcic CHN.
CHN. So JURCICCHEN.
There is a tiret. Comment on dit ça en anglais?
A dash? Underscore?
Yeah. Underscore. Exactly.
Underscore. The one at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah. Underscore.
Okay. And I will put that link in the show notes as well so people can follow you. And I'll also put a link to your SoundCloud page.
Ça marche.
Awesome. And just so you guys know, thanks for listening to the podcast. Jurcic is going to be at NeoKiz in July here in Austin, Texas. He'll be teaching and DJing. So make sure that you come and listen. And go ahead.
The previous edition, all the previous edition where I wanted to come to NeoKiz, I always had an exam in accounting. So the first time that I'm coming, I'm going to share my passion. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, brother. I appreciate it. All right, brother. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for sharing your journey. And I'll be seeing you soon.
Ça marche. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much for listening to this whole podcast. Wherever you are in the world, I'm definitely appreciative of you spending some time with me on this podcast episode. And if you made it this far, I can only assume that you are a fan of intellectual dance content. So if you are interested in checking out other things that I do online, I have a blog, I have a YouTube channel, and I have an online membership site. You can check out all the things I do at neokizomba.com/links. Again, that's neokizomba.com/links. You can find the show notes for this podcast, all that and more on the site. And once again, I appreciate you so much. And if you are willing to support the podcast, you can always buy me a coffee to help with the production cost, the hosting cost, and things of that nature. And we can continue to create more and more intellectual dance content for you and other dancers around the world. Thank you so much.